even update it because they have some spelling errors. Like they
Yeah.
call Anakin Skywalker, and I was
Yeah,
just thrown off. I was like, "What is happening?"
My mind, when I read that sentence, I was like, wait, is it doing a flashback?
Yes, I love prequels flashbacks to the prequels because I'm like,
Yeah.
oh,
It would later be fixed after the fact, but yeah.
right.
Some of it felt weird, but it's honestly remarkably close enough.
Yeah.
We'll say
Callista
close enough. Although
trilogy.
they call Palpatine President Palpatine
Yeah.
in some of the older
I mean, he
Bantam
serves
books.
essentially the same function. It's just they changed the name to Chancellor, but it's essentially
Yeah.
the same job position. But
Yes.
yeah, like the Callista trilogy introduces like, oh, this whole thing with Callista and her previous master, but they would later retcon it to be that it was a separate sect of the Jedi Order that, so it doesn't harm anything. But and then there's a wonderful novel by Karen Travis called No Prisoners, which involves her. So
yeah, there was some nice work where they tried to explain some of those discrepancies eventually. But yeah, I love those too, Brady, because I think it's really funny to see like authors' takes on what it was like based on the few things we knew at the time. It's just kind of interesting.
Yeah, like they were gonna do. I think Kenner was gonna do that sequel toy line. What was it called? It had like the sand speeder.
Oh yeah.
They had a whole, I think, whole thing there, and I think it was gonna go into some of the, or was it a prequel one? I don't remember.
I think it was a prequel. Yeah.
Yes, and it had the guy that was in charge of the clones, which would be interesting to, like, if someone could take that and then adapt it into what we have now.
Yeah. I'd have been interested to see some author like incorporate those kind of scrapped ideas.
Yeah. Anyway, back to the story. Sadly, our blue boy dies. But he gives Mundi a little bit of information, and then I don't know. This is the last panel of issue 2, and it has him in the clouds, looking over his family, as like kind of a force ghost type of thing. I mean, he's not a force ghost. I'm sure it's just a illustration. But I just thought that panel was kind of funny and also sad.
could see it as foreshadowing if you look at it from a certain point of view.
Yes.
On a certain snowy planet.
I don't know if I'm picking up on that.
Yeah.
About Obi-Wan, or
I was talking about Order 66. It's not because it wasn't out yet. I'm just saying, like, you could retroactively look at it that way.
I gotcha. So what do you guys think of the story so far? Like go ahead.
I think it's pretty solid. There's some really cool ideas presented in this story. It's kind of interesting because the prequels established that there was like 600 years of peace. So it was kind of hard to create good stories in the pre-Phantom Menace era. So I think that they did a great job. Like the books with Jedi Apprentice did great, and then these comics did pretty well too. I think this is a pretty remarkably fleshed out story to, in 2 issues, give us like all these stakes for an entire culture so quickly, and to develop this culture to where it feels like they're like a legitimate thing. Because they feel really real the way that it's written. And I'm currently looking at the really sad panel of our Tolan friends face up in the clouds. Yidi, that's very sad.
Yes.
That he perished there.
Oh yeah. Now there's another thing that's in here, and it's kind of ki-adi-mundi, I guess, coming to terms with some things, and it goes back to his training with Yoda. Do you guys know who his master was? Was it Yoda?
It could have been. We had a There's actually another Prelude to Rebellion. There was an
Yeah.
issue 0 that was released only online, and then they
Yes.
included it in the Epic collection, I think.
Yes, I was just looking at that a little bit ago.
And I think that included his training with Yoda. So that
Yes.
could very well have been.
Ki-adi-mundi is old enough to where you could have that be a thing and still have Dooku fit, because
Right.
Ki-adi-mundi is 100 something. So
Yeah,
it's not
and
inherently a contradiction.
Yoda wasn't Dooku's like direct master. I'm not too familiar with the books, like the young books. Sorry.
No, you're good. I think he is directly Dooku's master. I think that was the unique thing, because the contradiction in the original trilogy is that like Obi-Wan talks about Yoda as if that was his master, but we learn later that Yoda just trains all the younglings. But he did take on a few like personal apprentices, and Ki-adi-mundi could have been one of them. And I think we know fairly certainly that Dooku was like a direct apprentice.
I think Yoda Dark Rendezvous establishes that. Really.
Okay. I have not read that all the way through just yet. And then I also haven't read I think it's Secrets of the Jedi.
Secrets of the Jedi and Legacy of the Jedi.
Yes.
I think Legacy of the Jedi specifically deals with it the most, with some flashbacks there.
Right, yeah.
Okay. I do know that, at least I believe, I had just watched one of Matt Wilkins's videos about the Jedi Path book.
Right.
And I've read bits and pieces of the Jedi Path, and I saw that it talked about Dooku having a different master. Maybe I'm mistaken.
Yeah. No. You're right. He had a earlier master. I think that master was killed off, if I remember correctly.
Okay. That would make sense then.
Yeah, there was a name given to a master for who was a master of Dooku.
Yes.
But I don't think it's a character that showed up many times. I'm looking up his name right now. I can't recall it.
Gotcha.
That could be another example of helping Dooku go to the dark side.
Right.
Seeing somebody die at a young age like that.
Yeah. And I like it whenever like some of the council members will take up the the pupils of fallen Jedis, like Ki-adi-mundi does with Ashard Het.
Yeah.
Yes. And I kind of wish that they had done something like that with Ahsoka.
Like
during the Clone Wars.
Show that she had a master prior to Anakin.
Yes, and it's like we're running out of masters to teach. So
yeah, that would have felt less forced.
Yes. Okay, we've got Anakin can do one.
So Dooku's master was called Thame Cerulean. He was introduced in Legacy of the Jedi and Yoda Dark Rendezvous. He appeared in the Jedi Path. He did die, and then Yoda trained Dooku as his Padawan because of Thame Cerulean's death. He was a human male, I think, and he was from Corellia.
Which is also very racist, Corellia. So it would help his racism in the Episode 3 novelization.
Count Dooku.
Yeah, Count Dooku doesn't like other species in that.
Oh, wow.
Which is kind of contradictory because there's other books that don't seem to imply that as much. But Episode 3 really hammers in that he doesn't like alien species. So
it's funny that he runs the Confederacy of Independent system.
Yeah, it's the ironic thing.
Yeah.
The Corellia is very like human centric, so I could see that also being a factor there.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And Sereno too is pretty are like
Sereno.
human nobles, so they're kind of aristocratic and stuffy, uptight.
Yeah.
So continuing in the
Dooku.
What's that?
I said there's so much potential with Dooku. If only the EU was continued.
Yes. Oh my goodness. I would love a James Luceno Dooku book.
Yes.
Oh man.
Oh my god. That'd be awesome. It's never gonna happen though, but it'd be great. And a young adult series from Jude Watson.
And a young adult series from Jude
focused
Watson.
on Dooku and Qui-Gon.
Yes. Oh man.
The
I've only read a little bit of Jedi Apprentice, but I enjoy what I've read.
She's fantastic. And the tiny little story we got in Legacy of the Jedi with Qui-Gon and Dooku
was awesome.
Awesome. it shows how Qui-Gon, like Dooku has such a distanced relationship from Qui-Gon that you can see
Yeah.
why Qui-Gon wants to be so close with Obi-Wan, but you also see why he was skeptical of taking an apprentice beyond, obviously, Xanatos falling to the dark side was a detractor for him, but also his own experience with his master could be a deterrent for him for why he was more skeptical. It's very interesting. It's like a really, it's not really an intimate relationship between master and apprentice there. It's more like, it's hard to describe. It's more like professional.
Right.
It's very interesting.
Dooku did clearly care about Qui-Gon because Qui-Gon was a big reason why he fell to the dark side in the first place.
That is true. Yeah.
And
right.
I won't spoil anything, but I mean, Dooku, this is, years before episode 2, he skirts close to fully going dark, and it is Qui-Gon who brings him back. So I think that speaks volumes to the relationship.
Yeah.
So
that's oh man, I want to read all those now.
There's just so much, isn't there?
There's
so much in the expanded universe.
Which is both a blessing and
a curse.
Sort of stressful at the same time.
Like, I've gotten too much for me spoiled about the post Return of the Jedi stuff
it's
that
really
I'm like,
hard with post Return of the Jedi.
I want to. Well, it did come out like 20 years ago, so that's my fault. But I really want to catch up on that, especially hoping that they continue it with something.
Right.
And I want to be caught up. I don't want to be stressed getting that done. But I also want to learn more about prequel characters.
Yeah.
Like Dooku, Qui-Gon, and I mean even Yoda. Like, there's so much about Yoda I don't know.
Yeah. Well, we're still shrouded in a lot of mystery in his past. We're not allowed to
for sure.
too much, but we do get, like, Yoda Dark Rendezvous is a perfect example of being able to understand exactly who Yoda is and what his relationship is with Dooku and other characters without compromising on, like, his past and figuring that stuff out.
Interestingly, though, we do know his Jedi Master, which is somewhat interesting.
Yes.
He's a snake Jedi named Nakata Del Gormo from the Galaxy magazine.
Yeah. I've seen some images, and was it a Tales comic as well, or was it just from the magazine?
It wasn't ever a Tales comic. It was just from the magazine. It was just an art piece for his species, which was called a High Saurian that someone submitted for a design an alien contest, and then they had like a little paragraph blurb where they discussed like the High Saurian species and discussed like a member of the High Saurian species, Nakata Del Gormo, and established that he was Yoda's master and the master of a companion of Yoda's who was a human. So Nakata Del Gormo trained both Yoda and this unidentified human. And Leland Chi, the continuity holocron keeper, said that it was considered EU canon, that information.
Oh, nice.
But sorry for the tangent.
So, no, you're
when we're supposed to be talking about Prelude to Rebellion.
Sure. Well, it kind of ties into like the relationship with Yoda and ki-adi-mundi. Like, it looks like, or I'm not sure very much about the timeline and stuff, but it looks like it kind of, I guess it kind of builds to their relationship, because I'm assuming ki-adi-mundi wasn't the first, apprentice of Yoda's.
Most likely not, with how long he lived.
Right.
Centuries.
Yeah. Probably 900 years. Yeah.
He probably saw many apprentices die of old age, even.
Right. Yeah. And so I think it just kind of adds to that. Now, in the comic, we see that ki-adi-mundi is fighting against a droid. But of course, ki-adi-mundi doesn't have his lightsaber, because I feel like a lot of the things that, or maybe not a lot, but a few things in the EU, the way to make it interesting is you take the lightsaber away from the Jedi. I've noticed that with a few different things, but he holds his own pretty well. Then he eventually gets his lightsaber back, which is of course a great moment.
And even further, not to get off of Prelude to Rebellion, but like multiple things in the EU would later establish just how important to a Jedi their lightsaber is. It's like their friend. They feel weird when they don't have it. Like
Right.
the Clone Wars show from Filoni establishes this, and there's a whole comic about Anakin Skywalker losing his lightsaber as an apprentice of Obi-Wan.
Right.
It's a
That was
Tales short comic.
a bit dumb, but yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the lightsaber is very important.
Yeah, very important.
Now, throughout this issue, we also get that the smuggler, along with Ki-adi-mundi's daughter, her boyfriend, and then his side girl, which I mean, they can have multiple wives, so it's probably not, to their culture, it's not that big deal.
Yeah.
But they left planet, and there were these kind of, are they like frog lizard things? Trying to see a good picture. Yeah. I don't remember what the name of them are, but they're loose in the ship, and of course, their thing is that if they bleed, well, they bleed acid. So just like a xenomorph from Aliens. And so they're chasing them about the ship, and then they get hidden into an escape pod. What do you guys think of that?
I think the design for them is really cool. They look pretty scary.
Yeah.
Teeth, multiple eyes, claws.
Yeah.
It's like kind of cute, but then it's like, I don't want like a swarm of those.
It reminds me of, have you guys read the Jedi versus Sith comic with Darth Bane briefly in it?
Yes.
Yes.
It reminds me of the Bouncers a little bit, but which were those green species in there, except like the evil version.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think their
R.I.P.
design
that one
is pretty
bouncer.
Cool. Oh yeah, that one bouncer, that was sad. I think the design for them is really cool, and I think it's a scary idea for all of us. The idea of being trapped on a spaceship with malevolent aliens with teeth chasing after us in drones. I think that's a fear that many of us actually have. Horror movies give us stuff like that, so I think it's a pretty cool thing that they introduced right there.
Yeah. Here's a funny thing. So I was reading it and I was like, okay, these are like the xenomorphs from Alien. And I was like, well, I'm glad the design was a bit different. But then I'm looking a few pages later, and there's this droid that accompanies ki-adi-mundi, and it the head looks just like a xenomorph.
Yeah. And it has a funny line where it like it refers to Ki-adi-mundi's daughter as his offspring. It's very like it's sort of comedic because the droid's pretty like analytical, right? It sees things from a mechanical AI standpoint. So there's a little bit of humor in the exchanges between Ki-adi and this droid here.
Yeah. Oh yes, I see that right there. Yeah. There's a coworker that just announced that she was pregnant, and she hasn't named her baby yet, but she refers to it as her offspring. That's quite funny. And so they get onto the ship. His daughter is regretting the decisions she made. And so here's a little tidbit that I find kind of interesting. So we were talking about the Vow of Justice, the prequel to this. I don't know if you guys noticed this, but whenever I was reading the single issues, I saw that I think it was for number 5, they have the cover is based off of that short at the end, and not the main comic.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
Like whenever I was reading it, I was like, for the first time, I was like, what happens? This gets extreme fast, I guess. And where's his beard? And then I read it, and then
Yeah.
And then I'm like,
And
oh, okay.
and it just turns out it's like a story about younger ki-adi-mundi.
Yeah, and it's
And
like
it just seems like if you're looking at the covers, you're seeing the progression, and you're like, wait, so this random woman comes and makes ki-adi-mundi a slave? How does that factor
yes,
into the story? But
which
it's the vow of justice storyline.
like. I really like the artwork, but I'm like, why is this here? I guess I wanted to advertise more for that back there.
Maybe they got some newsletters from like fans where they were like saying that they were enjoying the vow of justice thing, and so they were like, maybe we'll promote that. I don't know why you do that though. It's weird.
I'd also wonder if they tried to make that like there's a few different things in the early Republic series, like Star Crash.
Star Crash is so weird.
It is weird. I do like it.
I like it too.
But like, was that supposed to be a pilot for issue number 1? Also, was Vow of Justice supposed to be like kind of a pilot for issue number 1? Maybe they made it and they were like, well, this doesn't, let's do a story arc. And so then they went with Prelude to Rebellion, and then they sprinkled those in where they did. And so maybe that's why they, spent so much for this cover piece, and they were like, okay, we don't want to waste our money, so let's just throw it here.
Like maybe they were going to make that the first issue to the series, but then they wanted to do like a more connective story as the lead off to the series. That's very interesting. And then they didn't want to not use the cover art they'd already paid for.
Right. And like, it would kind of make sense, because if they're showing like the origin of Ki-adi-mundi, because I think it was advertised as like the guy you will see in episode 1 because it came out before.
Yeah.
I think that, I know that eventually, like, the storyline moves away from Ki-adi-mundi. Maybe there was a plan to have him be the main character, but then they were like, well, let's switch it up,
Can I pose a question to you guys, like in regards to this? Do you guys prefer Prelude to Rebellion or Vow of Justice?
Ooh. What do you think, Alex? Oh. Or he's muted right now. So I kind of like Vow of Justice because I feel like it takes, like, it kind of throws you in, but it explains a good amount. I don't know if that's biased because I've read Prelude to Rebellion, because I already know how their world works, and that might be why they didn't make that issue number 1, because it's like, oh, we need more time to explain our world.
Yeah.
But I do enjoy Vow of Justice a bit better.
I'm with you there. I think Vow of Justice is it's a darker story, I think, but I think it's a more entertaining story. Yeah. I got one thing I found with Prelude to Rebellion is I was getting a little tired of like it's kind of a trope where the father's worried about his daughter, so he's trying to find her. And to me, she came off as quite annoying and kind of undeserving of his help, which, like, props to Ki-adi-mundi for still trying to find her and help her, right? But I just found that storyline was a little more disappointing for me than Vow of Justice. I just like.
I know what you're saying.
She has like a nice moment with her father that's kind of nice too.
Yeah. I do. I know that they fight in the final showdown, or not the final showdown, but they fight above here, and of course we go to Tatooine because everyone knows that. Yeah.
It's funny because Tatooine is said to be like this forgotten random backwater world, but like almost every Star Wars story goes there.
Right. And I do kind of like what you were saying about how you like the relationship between Mundy and his daughter. Um, like I kind of like that it shows how much he cares about her
Yeah,
in this. Like I would say that's probably some of the best parts. And then
yeah,
Vow of Justice is more of a um, his personal, his personal story.
yeah,
And like I'm becoming a Jedi because of this, which it seems very similar to like he did it to protect his world, but also to be safe. And it kind of reminds me of I think Lycan's world, the Junior Jedi Knights,
yeah.
about how she trained so she could protect her world, but also be safe.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes. The mermaid species Jedi.
yeah,
There. Yeah, I can see that comparison. Yeah.
yeah. And so going back to the comic, the smuggler takes them to Jabba as slaves.
Mm-hmm.
The boyfriend died. He got killed, and so Monday is on a mission to um, go and face Jabba and the smuggler. Um, and what do you think of this stuff so far?
I kind of felt bad for the boyfriend character
Yeah,
because, like I said earlier, he was clearly way in over his head the entire time.
yeah,
And you just saw that he was confident in the beginning, and then he saw like friends dying, and he perished, and I just felt like he was misguided, and he was in over his head, and he I just kind of felt bad for him in the end. What do you think?
yeah. I felt bad for him as well. Um, I don't. I had read this probably maybe a month ago, and so I don't remember a lot of the details. Um, but I remember like feeling bad for him.
Mm,
Kind of like, I mean, he's a teenager, I'm assuming, um, and he just got caught up with the wrong people.
yeah, which is a
And
very realistic story plot point.
yeah. Um, so did you have anything else to add to that?
Well, I like the inclusion of Jabba here.
Oh
Um,
yes.
Always
I was
fun to
just
see
gonna
Jabba
get
popping
into
up,
that.
you know?
Oh yeah. I I think it's interesting like that I think this is issue 6. Um I think this came out before the Phantom Menace because it would have been this probably came out like either the same month as the Phantom Menace, unless I'm wrong.
Maybe a couple weeks before.
Yeah. And so it was nice to um, see Jabba here, and also think back to like I guess that kind of concept back then because I didn't read these until I was in college, um, and so I guess just the concept of having new Star Wars,
Yeah.
like as new as like the prequels, because I grew up with the prequels, um, and they were just kind of always there. Maybe they weren't there for 6 months while I waited to get them on DVD or something. But I do like I really like the art style of these here.
Prelude to Rebellion's got a pretty fun art style, I think for sure. It's like
Yeah,
to me, it screams specifically the transition in comic book art from like the '90s style that's pretty
yeah,
distinctive to that transition to like really realistic in the 2000s. I think
yeah,
it's kind of a blend between like realistic and more cartoony. So
yeah,
I
I think
agree.
it's like it's symbolic of that like time period, which is cool.
yeah. Um, so, Alex, I don't know if you had heard Brendan's question from earlier, but do you prefer Prelude to Rebellion or Vow of Justice?
I think Prelude to Rebellion. I think there's a lot more
Okay.
world. I think there's a lot more world building in there. I mean, I
Okay.
like the other one. It's just a lot shorter, less
Gotcha.
digest.
Okay. So what do you guys think of the finale here? Him rescuing his daughter, and then kind of the closing here, and even the doesn't he gets accepted as a member of the Jedi Council, right?
Right at the end, I believe he does. It's a nice moment because the entire series has been building towards he and his daughter parted on not the best terms. So
Yeah.
the whole time you've been kind of rooting for ki-adi-mundi to get back to her and save her, even though she doesn't think that's what's best for her. This whole time she's kind of been frustrated with her father.
Yeah.
And so it was nice to see them reunite under good terms. That was definitely a nice moment that you could kind of cheer for.
Yeah, for sure. Do you guys have any final overall thoughts on this?
I just love how creative it is given the time period.
Oh yeah.
You know, you think about what Palpatine says, that there's 1,000 years of peace, you know, since Darth Bane and everything, and you're like, well, what can you possibly do within those 1,000 years?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you get this story, which, you know, it's not, the world's not ending or anything, but still really interesting, like, internal struggle on this planet, and, you know,
Yeah.
this character emotional struggle with him and his family. So
Right.
I
Yeah.
think it's solid.
That's a good point.
Yeah. I'd agree with you guys on this. This story arc isn't my favorite one. It's really filled with a lot of, I guess there's just a lot of information all at once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But just thinking back at like the time when it came out, they kind of had to explain a whole lot because from what people knew, they only knew the original trilogy, and then maybe some of the post Jedi stuff with like the Bantha era, because this was leading out of that.
Yeah.
I guess it started the Republic comics, which went until, I mean, it got changed to
Dark Times
the Dark
eventually.
Times. Yeah. And I think it all ended in like 2006 or something, 2007.
Yeah, it went a long time, and it's my favorite comic series overall. I think so if we're going by like comparing it to what came later for Republic, Prelude to Rebellion isn't the strongest arc, but it was still a good enough arc to start off the series, I think.
Yeah.
But like the Republic comic series is fantastic, and perhaps it's a testament to the creativity of Prelude to Rebellion that it went so long and was so successful, because I guess Prelude to Rebellion did lay the groundwork for it, being the first series.
It went 86 issues or 87, and would have gone 100 if they didn't change it to Dark Times. But
like
if you guys had to rank it on a scale of 1 to 10, where would you put it?
The story or the Republic comics?
Prelude to Rebellion, the arc.
8.
I think 7.
I was gonna say 7 as well.
That's fair.
I'll have to keep note of all this stuff. So I've set this as my, all right, is it better than this, or not as good as this?
I might actually drop it down to 7, since I was just saying I think it's pretty good.
Don't just fault for peer pressure. No, I'm just kidding. I'm glad that we were able to do this. I actually have to be somewhere at 4, and so we'll only be able to do this first story arc.
Okay.
Hopefully we can get together another time and do the Darth Maul storyline, which it's a lot shorter.
Yeah.
And it's a like an action comic. Like I guess I would put it in that. Like this is more story.
Yeah.
not as much action, but then the Darth Maul comic is a little bit of dialogue and then a bunch of, a lot of fighting. I mean, it's Darth Maul.
Yeah.
But anyway, do you guys have anything to that you'd like to plug from your YouTube channels or anything?
Well, as always, as I try to every chance I get, in April, me and Brennan have started a podcast together, much like your own, but it will only be available on the Expanded Universe website. It will come out once a week starting in April. So if you want to see me and Brennan discuss a variety of topics with guests, which you will be one of them at some point.
All right.
Yeah, we've got to get you on, man, for sure.
Then you got to go check out the Expanded Universe website in April.
All right. I'm looking forward to that.
Brennan, yeah, sorry.
Oh, I just like the exclusive content on the Expanded Universe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Brennan has a phenomenal channel. If you could talk a little bit about that. S-tier worthy.
I mean, I've been doing some stuff lately on there. If you want to check it out, that would be cool.
Oh my god, bro. I'm gonna beat this kid. No, he's not just making some content. He's making phenomenal content. He's pumping out videos almost every single day, each with a variety of topics, whether that be species lists, whether that be talking about specific lore things, reviewing books and short stories and all the things in between, and talking about topical videos like when I mentioned earlier, Abel G. Pena, his face being in a story and all that stuff. He does that and a million times more. He deserves every subscriber in the universe. He's the true EU king, true EU teen king, I should say. And yeah, he's the top. He's the best Star Wars EU YouTuber out there, even surpassing Noah, even surpassing Matt Wilkins, because his brain doesn't leak. His brain doesn't leak nearly as much as Matt does.
Alex, I'm gonna need you as like a hype man for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Can you help me with my first job interview?
Yeah, I'll just go check out his YouTube channel.
I mean, I appreciate it, and I've really been enjoying what you've been doing here on this channel, Fine Edition. So I'm
absolutely
really honored that you invited me to come onto this Comlink chatter to talk a bit about these comics. It's super fun. I can't wait to talk about Darth Maul. Like you said, it's an action comic, but there's some EU connections there that are really interesting. So I think there will be a lot to talk about. Yeah, there's some connections to Darth Plagueis. It's really good stuff. So I can't wait to talk about it at some point. And I've really been enjoying the videos you did, like the one about G Canon.
Me too.
It's good stuff. And this holiday special edition, I'm very curious to see where this goes. It's going to be really fun.
Ditto that.
Right.
And
thank you.
Yeah, and I as well. If you want to watch some dude sit on his couch and talk about books, I'm your guy. Otherwise, go check out Brennan.
And he does it really well too. I'll say, Alex has like these handwritten notes that
literally just spark notes.
They look like they go for like pages. He goes pretty in depth with his books. And if you want to see him throw a book across the room, I won't tell you which video. Go watch all of his videos, and eventually you'll find him throw a book across the room. So,
was it Dawn of the Jedi?
No, actually,
it should have been. Dawn of the Jedi is the worst novel in the Expanded Universe, in my opinion.
I haven't read that one yet. I've read the comics, but I haven't touched it yet.
The comics are pretty good. Do you like the comics?
They weren't as good as. Well, I feel like they were my least favorite Old Republic comics.
That's fair. Yeah.
I even preferred the cash grab Old Republic SWTOR tie-ins.
Oh yeah, the Blood of the Empire and stuff like that.
Yeah, I almost prefer those more than it. Like, I couldn't retain it very well.
It's a lot of information very fast. Like we were talking about, Prelude to Rebellion has a lot of information. Dawn of the Jedi, the first time I read it, I had to go back and reread the first issue. There was just a lot.
Yes. And it probably would benefit if I read the handbook first, or whatever they had, issue 0.
Oh, yeah. That gave a little bit.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you so much, guys, for joining me today. And thank you, everyone, for listening. and we'll try to get some more videos out soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.